and people are gravitating towards him. He's using military in the streets like fascists do. He's actually suppressing voices, arresting Don Lemon, making sure that his FCC chair pushes Jimmy Kimmel off. And now he's talking about suppressing opposition voices by actually surrounding polling sites with ICE. That literally is the definition of fascism. But with that being said, Democrats have to see what is happening.
When a political debate escalates to the point where one side is openly describing the other as authoritarian, it signals that something deeper than policy disagreement is happening. This is no longer just about how elections are run. It is about who controls the process, who defines legitimacy, and who the public is expected to trust.
Tonight, as Donald Trump seeks to federalize elections, his former White House chief strategist says he should take it a step further.
You're damn right. We're going to have ICE surround the polls come November. We're not going to sit here and allow you to steal the country again. And you can whine and cry and throw your toys out of the pram all you want, but we will never again allow an election to be stolen.
I'm old enough to remember when many Democrats were warning of this exact thing, Brianna. Now you have Steve Bannon saying it. You have Trump saying he wants to federalize elections. He wants federal agents to count votes. What are we to make of all of this?
Well, I think given that under Joe Biden we had millions of illegal aliens come in, it's definitely fair to be worried that there could be non-citizens voting. We know that non-citizen voting does happen, even if it is rare, according to some on the left.
How frequent is it?
Well, if you want a list of it, I actually have some for you. Hold on one second.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
At first glance, the conversation appears to be about security, but underneath that framing is a much larger question about scale, evidence, and intent.
Like actual numbers.
Yeah,
You
no,
get to page 6 or 7
Or
to
people.
find them.
I know.
I actually wanted to have a lot of quotes for you guys. All right, here we go. So a Georgia audit found 20 non-citizens registered to vote. 9 of them ended up voting in a previous election.
20?
Yeah,
Nine.
let me finish. In Michigan.
How many years?
It's funny when you guys mock small amounts, but let's remember that Marionette Miller Meeks won her 2020 election by 6 votes. Okay. Imagine if there were 6
Were they
fraudulent
6
votes.
undocumented immigrants?
No,
they weren't.
My point is that some elections are decided quite literally on the margins,
Sure.
and every vote counts.
But not a single presidential election has been decided by a margin of
Can I finish my point?
voters.
Can I finish my point? That doesn't, just because it doesn't impact a presidential election, does not mean that it is not worthy of attention.
What is the percentage of fraudulent non-citizen voting in America?
I don't have the percentage, but I have more examples if you guys wouldn't cut me off. Let me just finish. Exactly.
I don't know.
Hold on a second. 41 non-citizens cast a ballot in North Carolina in 2016.
Okay,
1,500 foreigers registered to vote in California by the state DMV. They were not citizens in 2018.
Oh, did they? And
Did they vote?
were they
vote?
caught?
Did they vote?
Actually,
Did they vote?
Examples are presented, but examples alone do not establish a widespread pattern. The difference between isolated incidents and systemic problems is crucial.
it doesn't
They're
matter
just
if
registered to vote. That doesn't
registering
mean
to
they
vote as a
vote.
non-citizen is legal.
So-
According
I know,
to
but
18
they
U.S.
didn't
Code,
vote.
Section 1015, subsection F says that anyone who knowingly makes a false statement when
Hold
registering
on,
to
but
vote
here's the
can
thing.
get jail time.
Here's the thing. I wanted you to go through it because I think it illustrates in and of itself how actually incredibly rare this is. And even when, the Heritage Foundation went looking for non-citizens voting, over the course of, 10 plus years, they found 77 cases, actually more than 10 years, about 24 years. They found 77 instances of non-voters voting, and they went looking, okay? So listen, if this were about people, non-citizens voting, maybe that's the case, then please help me explain why Trump is still obsessed with Georgia, where he was looking for 11,000 votes.
Here, the numbers unintentionally reveal the weakness of the argument. The data points toward rarity, not mass infiltration.
Where Georgia, they've got voter ID, they've got tough voting laws. Why is he saying that Georgia was a fraudulent state, that he actually won when he did not?
Yeah, that's what he believes. I mean, he says the things that he believes, and obviously now there's a federal investigation going on.
Is he right or is he wrong?
I don't know. There's an investigation that a federal
You don't
judge signed
know?
off on, so we'll find out.
Scott, you don't know?
I thought in the
Scott,
past-
you used to know
Yeah, you used to know.
What are you asking him? Is he right or is he wrong about?
fraud in Georgia, that
In
whether he
2020.
won or he lost Georgia?
All the evidence we have right now is that Georgia was not fraudulent. However, my point was
Well,
that
we have evidence.
a federal judge just signed off on a warrant to go get evidence, and now there's an investigation going on. That was my point.
Well, to Scott's point, really quickly, we do have evidence in Georgia, and I know people don't want me to cite my own reporting, so I will cite the Atlanta Journal-Constitution because it is left-wing. We know that during the 2020 recount, 3,000 ballots were scanned.
The focus shifts away from prevention and toward relitigating a past loss. That change matters.
Twice. The Secretary of State's office could not confirm if those were counted, though election integrity activists say they were counted. We know during the audit of the 2020 presidential election, there were, quote, several cases in which election workers mistyped vote totals or allocated votes to the wrong candidate. The state election board gave a slap on the wrist.
We know that
governors
said it was fair.
Brianna, we'll move on from this for a second, but I just want to just ask you a question. How many times did they recount the ballots in Georgia?
I think it was 3.
I think it was 6.
So
they have not only counted the ballots, but they recounted them many, many times. The Trump campaign had opportunities to challenge. Hold on. The Trump campaign had opportunities to challenge this in the courts. They lost. The governor, a Republican, said there was no fraud in the election. The lieutenant governor said a Republican said there was no fraud in the election. The Secretary of State, a Republican, said there was no fraud in the election. So I don't want people to come away from this exchange with even the slightest inkling, despite what you are reading there, that there was any fraud, because that has been completely and totally.
Can I tell you what it is, though? Can I tell you what it is?
Let me tell you what it is. Let me respond.
When recounts, courts, and bipartisan officials reach the same conclusion, continued denial becomes a personal belief rather than an evidence-based claim.
Well, let me also respond.
Not too sorry.
The AJC is not a left-wing rag. In fact, Greg Bluestein, who's their national political reporter, is just an awesome, awesome journalist, and that just has to be said because local journalism is like really what we have going for us in this country. That's just a side note, a point of personal privilege. What we're seeing right now is fascism. We're seeing fascism at play. What we're doing is we're seeing somebody who is the head of a party that is just magnanimous, and people are gravitating towards him. He's using military in the streets like fascists do. He's actually suppressing voices, arresting Don Lemon, making sure that his FCC chair pushes Jimmy Kimmel off. And now he's talking about suppressing opposition voices by actually surrounding polling sites with ICE. That literally is the definition of fascism. But with that being said, Democrats have to see what is happening. The mayors of the city of Detroit, Mary Sheffield, the mayors of Milwaukee, the mayors of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Clark County, where you have these swing states, need to make sure that they're doing everything they can to protect their institutions, protect their voting centers, and make sure that they are securing that from outside interference.
Well,
The debate is no longer just about ballots. It is now about how power is exercised.
Two things. One is Donald Trump, because he is a man with little man with a frail ego, cannot stand the fact that he lost. So he is trying to rewrite history. Whether it's Minnesota, whether it's Georgia, he's probably in a padded room somewhere with the ballots they took from Georgia, circling them for him right now, because he is hell-bent and thinks he can rewrite history, whether it's January 6th, whether it's the election. He can't stand the idea that his obituary is going to say that he lost in 2020, in the same way he can't stand having lost the Nobel Peace Prize. And the second thing is they are afraid of losing in the midterms. That's why they are trying to change the voting maps, the districting. That's why they are trying to scare people. My prediction is that these threats are going to piss people off, piss voters off, and more people are going to show up to vote because they will not let themselves be intimidated and frightened by this thug.
Two incompatible realities are being presented. Only one can align with verifiable facts.
I don't think it's an accident that Republicans lost a race in Texas by 30 points. It swung 30 points away from them. They lost by 15. It had been 15 points gain. They lost Latinos, et cetera. And a few days later, Donald Trump is talking about nationalizing our elections. Now, I don't know why anyone's listening to Steve Bannon, given his latest forays in the Epstein files, but we should listen to Donald Trump. And Donald Trump should be a concern to everyone. Because remember what happened last time. Everyone said, don't worry what he says. And then we had the insurrection on January 6th.
All right, next for us.
What makes this moment significant is not just who is right or wrong in a single argument. It is what happens when large numbers of people begin to accept claims that collapse under scrutiny simply because those claims feel emotionally satisfying or politically useful. Democracies do not fail overnight. They erode slowly through repeated doubt, repeated suspicion, and repeated attacks on institutions that were designed to be boring, procedural, and stable. The question viewers should be asking is simple. Are proposed solutions proportionate to the problem being demonstrated? Or are they designed to concentrate more control in fewer hands? That distinction determines whether reforms strengthen democracy or weaken it. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think these warnings are justified, or do you believe they are being exaggerated for political advantage? Share your perspective in the comments. If you value calm, evidence-based breakdowns like this, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss future analysis.